Okay, very good evening to all of you guys. So, couple of things here. Let's go back to the previous sessions, what we treated actually before we. So, two topics we're going to treat today: exception handling. Okay, exception and this kind of extended classes on. Yes, extended classes on Python classes. Fine. So we try to distinguish between exception and errors. Are they the same or are they different? Errors versus exceptions. So I want to make this clear. Okay, some of you said I am very fast, but guys, don't forget, okay, you can always reduce the speed. Yes or no? I'm trying to go super slow also. Okay, so let's start. So what are we going to do? We start by writing something down. Okay, sorry, this is for the Java class, so I'm going to open something now. I think I should save this guy. Okay, so let me open something. This is called 50 days of Python notes. Okay, all right. So yes, this was what we treated in the last class. Okay, kind of a template for the object and some little definitions here and there. Okay, and yes, by the way, so one of you pointed out actually that when you downloaded this from GitHub, you are unable to open this file. And I'm really sorry about that. Actually, this file, if you see here, I just show you 50 days of this. So if you see here, guys, so I have actually kept it inside Python notes, but see what I pushed out was something like this. Okay, so 50 days to this. You see, this is dot. This has a dot XOUR something extension, XOOP extension. So you may not be able to open this file. However, what I should do is, like, as soon as I'm done, I will have to convert this into what? I hope you're able to understand what I'm saying. This file is journal extension. So what I can do is just to save it as, export it as PDF. Okay, so I'll export this now as PDF. So it's going to be like that. Okay, so when I now save this back, okay, save this back. Okay, so you see when I go to that folder, now you will see this. Okay, this note. So this is in now PDF. Excuse me. It will open. Don't worry. It will open. Yes. Okay. So you see this. So it will be an extension of whatever I've written in the class. Okay, so this will be the stuff, and then you have to continue. So because of that, now I need to make this note, I need to format it properly. Okay, so moving forward, I should write it properly because you might want to refer to this. All right, so that is a quick thing that just came to my mind. I thought, okay, I should bring it to your notice as well. I'm going to give you the notes. So first thing is, what do you mean by Python scope? What is a Python scope? Or scopes of Python. Okay, scope in Python and namespaces. Namespaces. As regards what classes, don't forget. Don't forget this. This we are treating classes. I hope you still remember. Okay, Python classes, which is kind of we are trying to look into what object-oriented programming concept. Fine. So simply put, a namespace is kind of a mapping from your names to an object. So we'll start with this mapping from what? Names to objects. Can you give example? Sure. All right. So one thing you should know that most of these namespaces are implemented in Python dictionary. So we know that for sure, implemented using Python dictionary. So you expect to see key value pair in between. Fine. Implemented using Python dictionary. Fine. Python. I use .py dictionary. I use dict for short. Okay. So the important thing to know about namespaces is that there is absolutely no relation between names in different namespaces. Please listen, this is very important. So remember, there is no relation between namespaces in different what? No, remember, note, no relation, okay, between names in different namespaces, okay, different namespaces, no worries. Fine. We will give example, don't worry. Okay. So now, whenever we think of this, so we should think of now what is a scope then. Okay, we have seen this now. How is it different from scopes, right? Python scope, when we say we are defining the scope of the class, what exactly it is. Fine. So, can you think of a scope? It's just a place. Let's use a place or a region now where this namespaces is directly accessible, right? So that's why we looked at namespace first. Now let's define scope now. So this is now a region. Can we say a partition? Can I use a partition? Okay, like that kind of a code block. Okay, a part of a piece of code, okay, where the namespace is directly accessible. Where this namespace, the namespace is directly accessible. So that means it can also be out of scope, right? Fine. So if you are in MITM, okay, so if I want to access, if I want to meet you, I should go to your class. Let's say you are in 7A, whatever. So I go to 7SEM, I go to your section. So that means that is your scope. The scope is where I can literally access you. Example, Maggie, I don't know why he's not here. He's in 5th SEM. So if I want to access him, I should go to 5th SEM block and then I should look for him in 5B. That's fine. Okay. So that is it. And that means that we need to have what we call what? Global scope and then local scope. Okay. So local scopes cannot be accessed outside the function. Okay. Whereas global scope can be accessed outside the function. No worries. So, and in most cases, we try to give an example. Okay. So let's take an example now. For example, I'll use blue for that. For example, uh, let's say we want to have some stuff that will have let's say we define some function, so we say def so I'm going to say maybe like global g underscore scope. Okay, I'm not going to write the whole code block, don't worry, I'm not wasting your time. And then we have another one which we call local scope. Okay, local underscore scope underscore scope. Fine. Now inside here, maybe like we want to define, okay, let's have two, okay, global and local. Let's have another one which doesn't have scope. Yes or no? So we say no scope. Okay, such that when we kind of run this, we now know which is going to call first. Okay, so in this case now we have defined this, and let's say we want to access something here. So under the local scope, maybe we try to print something. We say maybe like a is equal to hello. Fine. Okay, now and then under non-local scope we have b, we now call it maybe like non hello, anything is fine. So what we do now, we can actually go and now call these guys. Okay, so we call them. So we say okay fine, how do you call it actually? Have you forgotten? You can actually call directly, right, by using what? The function name, right? So we now say okay, g underscore global, g underscore scope. Fine. Fine. And then we can print something, right? So you can just use some print statement, say printf, okay, maybe like accessed what? Accessed the global scope, okay, something like that. So which global scope are we accessing now? So I'm accessing A. It is in the local, don't worry. So I'm accessing A. No worries, right? Fine. So I'm going to repeat the same thing I call local scope. Okay, local scope. Then I will now print accessed the local scope. Something like that. Print access the local scope. Fine, I continue. Now after this is done, I will now print non-scope also, right? So the same thing I'm going to do for non-scope, anything, or no scope I called it, anything. So you print some statements. You say print accessed the non-local scope. Fine. Now, what will you notice here? So when you call this now, okay, so that means that though we have a scope in the local, all right, actually is gonna, the global scope actually we access, all local scope accessible from the global scope. No worries. Okay, we're gonna give a kind of the demo session very soon. So this is something about your scopes, okay? So what you know for sure is that this we did without a class. Yes or no, guys? So we did not use a class. So what you can do is you can actually wrap it in a class such that you have, you say maybe class scope example, scope EG. Okay. And this is actually how you define your class, right? So scope EG colon, and then you put all those statements. So statements will be all your whatever def, blah blah blah, def something. Okay, and remember, since you're going to use class now, so you close, this is the end of the statement. Statement ends. So since you're going to use the class, you need to create an object of the class, right? So we can now say cl is equal to what? Scope example, right? Scope eg. Yes or no? So we create this object of the class, and then we use this one to access all the scopes. We have seen it in the previous one. All right, so this is what you can actually do. Okay, now if this holds true, then what else we can do? We have seen the init method, right or wrong, guys? So a word about instancing or instantiating an object. Okay, so when we say you are creating an instance of the object, what exactly does that mean? So let's say some little thing, notes on what? Notes on instantiating objects. Okay, so this is simply put, we are going to create what? An object instance. So what do we do usually when we create this object instance? What do we do actually? Can you tell me why we need to create this actually? And what happens when we don't create that? What happens when we don't create the object instance? Yeah, I know most of you are tired. Okay, can you just tell me what happens when we don't create an object instance? We will not be able to access those class members, yes or no? All right, so this is what we've done previously. I cannot see anything in the chat box. Anyway, so let's continue. Okay, so once this is done, next what we can actually do is we now look into what we call what? Class and instance variables, because we are creating objects. So where do they belong to? Do they belong to the class or do they belong to an instance? Actually, what is a class variable? What is instance variable? Right? Because we say we are instantiating objects. That means we're gonna have some things now which we call what? Class variables and instance variables. So let's differentiate these two: class variables versus instance variable. So if I give you a program, you'll be able to determine or differentiate which one or which belongs to class, which are class variables and which are instance variables. Yes or no? Okay. So what are class variables, guys? What are class variables? Variables that are defined within the class. Is it? Somebody is not saying anything actually. Okay, so say example, so class variables, they belong to the class, so the scope is limited to the class, all right, and they are shared by all instances. So you can think of instance now as a method. Inside the method you have variables. Yes or no, guys? Okay, all right. So that means that class variables, you can think of them as super variables now, which can be accessed by what? From your instance variables or your method. So that means all their properties are being shared. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you. Okay, are being shared by that. So let's give an example. Okay, so let's say I'm creating my pets project. I'm working on my pets project. So say for example, let's understand this using example. So I'm going to say class, I like cats actually. I don't know whether you like dogs, but I like cats. They are cute. Okay. Now, what breed of cat is that? Okay. So maybe I can say, if I look at it, I'll say what kind of cat? Okay. What class does it belong to? So I cannot say class it belongs to. Shared by all objects, and Anania, thank you. Yes, good. So what class does cat belong to? So I cannot say class, you got my point again. So I can change it to what? Kind, right? You got my point. So the kind is what? Now, you know they are called felines. Yes or no, guys? Felines. Big cat, like, okay, feline family, big cats being the big ones. Okay. It doesn't matter, guys. So what I want to highlight is this thing, kind equal feline, is a what? Variable, which belongs to the what? Class. So this is class variable. And this class variable is shared by all instances. We're going to see the instances now. Shared by all instances. Okay. Now, so let's define some method. So we say def whatever. So I'm going to use my init method, okay, which you know now it refers to my global. Is class variable the same as local variables? Okay, that is good. So for now, I can refer them as global because local can be called as instance variables, okay, which scope is only limited within that method which is defined. Okay, yeah, this is fine. I stand to be corrected because I know global variables, you can actually refer them as class variables. Okay, so if I define a variable even outside the class, actually, example, I can keep this feline also outside the class, so that becomes a global variable. So if this holds true, say example, now what I mean is this, let's say I say kind equal what? Feline. Okay, and I want to access it even outside another class that is not this class. So in that case, this becomes my global variable. But if we are looking at this now, I think yes, class variables are called as local variables. In this case, yes, we can think of it as local because it's only limited to this class in which it is defined. That's a brilliant question. Or just check if you find anything different, just let me know. Okay, fine. So now this is fine, and then we now need to look at now instance variables. Okay, so we say this fine, and here we now say okay fine. We are going to use method fine, and we know for sure I want maybe to take the name of the name of the name of the feline. Okay, the cat. Okay, at runtime. Fine. I'll return this using self dot what name. Okay, equal name. Now this name now is what now? What instance variable? Okay, this is my instance variable. So you see it's unique to each of these instance, right? So each of these methods. So only scope is what is unique to this guy. Fine. To the method in which is defined. Okay. Now it's done. What do? We now need to create instances of this what class. So maybe like I say city as for cat, city equals what? Cat, yes. And then I wanted to give a name because I'm taking name now. So one argument I have to pass it. So I think one is called patient cat. Okay, fine. Then I created the city. I can say C. Okay, let me use CA and CB. Okay, so I've created two objects because if you remember in the previous class, I don't know whether I addressed that issue, whether we can have two objects for the same class or how many objects can we have. Yes, so you can have multiple objects for a particular class. Fine. So you can create multiple objects, but remember, instead of creating multiple, you can actually use one, right, and call them. And I thought we did that in the previous class, but no worries. Let's continue. So then I have another one is called patient cat. What is it called? I don't know. Some cat's name is there. Okay. I don't know. I'll call it African cat. Anything. Okay. African cat. Fine. African cat. No worries. Now, when I now say ct dot, please listen. I now need to access this kind, right? I'll say ct dot kind. Now, this ct dot kind, please listen. I'm accessing the what class variable, right? So this should be accessible by all. So what do you think it will return? It will return the what kind of feline? It will return feline. Output will be what? Feline. No worries, right? Feline. Fine. Now, I now need to access each of them, each of the word names individually, right? So I can ask, okay, fine, say ct dot maybe like name in between, okay, because I've accessed cat, and then I'll say cb dot, okay, I'm calling actually ca, the object which I created. So I'll say here, okay, fine, if I say ca dot name, what will it return? And when if I say ca dot what? A cb.name, okay, cb.name, what will it return? Okay, so since these are unique, please listen, since these names are unique, so this should return, this will output what? Okay, this will output what? Patient, you got the point. And then this will output what? African cat. Fine. Now, though we refer to the same word instance, see here. Okay, you might say, sir, actually we created two objects for that, right? So why can't we use one object and call this? So try if you use this one object and call the same name, right? Even if you call it twice, it's going to return only one of them, one instance, right? To keep returning patient. So what you can do is, I want to return patient and African. You can put comma African. In that case, you have to go and add another argument here, maybe like L name and F name. Let's say you call this first name of the cat and last name, or family name of the cat. I don't know whether cat has family name, but you got the point. Okay, so what did you understand here now? That's fine, we have our class variable, okay, which is shared by all instances. That's what we did here now, and when we tried accessing this, we now see that fine, we can actually access it from this instance, which is just inside the class. And then here we have two instances, yes or no, and sorry, we had one instance which we created two objects of that, and then we're able to call that. Fine. Okay, so this is some little note about this. And one of the things we might actually look at is, let's say, if you've studied, what do I call it now? What do you say? You might want to kind of populate, maybe like you are creating an application, you want to use some attribute, what do you call it? Attribute value. Okay, you want to use some values to kind of prioritize which gets called first. Okay, look at what I mean. I want say example, I have say a list example. So how do we prioritize using? So this is priority in classes. Okay, it might not be that I'm trying to give everything a heading, but it mustn't be that. So let me just write something and then we now look at what I mean by that. So say I have maybe some string. Okay, so in this case now I might use a list, but for now let me just leave it as another string in which I have maybe like something like this. Okay, or maybe like I have, for what purpose I'm using this, I say okay, I'm using it to calculate students grade. Okay, and which class is it? So I don't want to use class now. I will say which sem students are these. I'll say 7 sem. Okay, something like this. Now I want to say 7 sem and then grade, right? So I need to prioritize which one gets called first. So I want this to be called first. Then after that, I'll go to peppers, right? And which is called second, okay? So what I can do actually, I can create the class, then create the object, and then when I'm actually calling them, I call them using the object of the class. Example. So I have a function which I call def student std grade, fine. Now I'm putting all these things underneath. Okay, so this guy has come here now, so instead of wasting time rewriting it again, I'm going to push them here, and then I take this guy and then keep it back here and I define it here. Fine. So I got this student's grade, anything. Fine. Now this is done. Next I need to create the object of this. Now I now know which one I have to prioritize first. So I'll say call the object, call it st. Okay, dot what? St equal what? Stu grade. Fine. It doesn't take any arguments, yes or no, or parameter. So it's not parameterized what? Constructor in this case. Okay, let's think of it like that. Fine. Now I will now say, okay, fine. I'm gonna call this guy. I will now call it, I say st dot what peppers. I don't see this, we call peppers first, yes or no? So what I wanted to show you was st dot sem. I'll call st dot sem first, and then I will now call st dot what peppers. So you might say, sir, okay, why did we now use one object, right? So this was what I was trying to explain that time, that we can actually call them using the same object, or you can create another one also. You call st2, no worries. Okay, but no need to keep creating objects unless you want to use all of them. So one should be sufficient here. And you know, by default, if we run this, we might not get any output on because we didn't wrap it around print statement. However, if you type it in the console directly, you'll be able to get this. Fine. Okay, so with this, actually, you can reassign this. So this is the beauty of priority. So this is how it is by default. So can we reassign? Can we reassign? Obviously, since we have the choice, the flexibility to choose which one is being called first, we can actually reassign values to them. Okay, let's say this person has now moved to 8 sem. Okay, so what I will do, I will now need to, now in this case, you might need to create a new object. Okay, because let this new object hold the value of the new one, right? So I will say st2, fine, equals what? Student std whatever grade, fine. So once this is done, I'll now say st2 dot, which one do I want to change? Semester, yes or no? I'll now say sem. So once I change sem now, sem will be equal to what? 8 sem. 8 sem. Fine. So this is done. Okay, sorry, I don't need to put it in braces. Okay, so this is done, is a string. Okay, so what I can now do now, I now print it in whatever I want. Now I can now print it in this order. See, please listen now. So I have created this now. The question is, when I want to call this, please listen. Should I call it now? Can I call this st? Please listen. Dot st2.sem, no worries, we'll call this. How about calling the purpose? Should I use st2 or should I use st1? Should I use st2, that is this, or should I use st1? We will try this out. Okay, can you make a wide guess? Can you make a wide guess? Should I use st2 or should I use st1? Okay, so I believe many of you guys that we are going to use st2 to get this, and that is fine, no worries. Okay, because we have created a new object, right? Fine. Okay, so I think now it's time for us to start demoing something, and then after that we try to look into what exactly? We try to look into exception handling. Okay, all right, so let's proceed. So far this is what we've done, and let's look at some hands-on session. Okay, Now over to the hands-on session, and yes, I believe most of you are able to follow whatever I'm explaining. So classes, namespaces, class definition, instance of objects, whatever. Oh, I need to talk about Python iterators and generators. Okay, let's demo this and then we get back to Python iterators and generators. Okay, guys, fine. So till here, we will see this and then we move to this guy. Fine. Okay. All right, so let's continue here. So first example is like, okay, use of scope. So use of scope, 1 minute, let me comment out things here. Okay, this is done. Okay, so this is what we have seen, right? So I'm defining some tests. Okay, and then this is my maybe my global one. Inside here I have my, okay, I have the main function. Please look here. Inside here I have my local scope, so it's gonna hold some stuff which I don't know. Fine. So it doesn't matter. See, this is a famous example, ham, spam, whatever, and all those examples. So it doesn't matter. You can put anything there. And this is my local scope. Fine. Fine. And then this is my global scope. Sorry, this is local scope, this is non-local scope, and then this is the global scope. Fine. Now, okay, so what I want to do is when I call do local, okay, so that is, remember I'm referring to this, right? So what do you think it should print on the console? Should it print this local, why, whatever is there? Fine. And then when I call non-local, right, which one should it print? It should print this, right? Okay, how about when I call global? Okay, so I will say, okay, fine, put some message. And when will this test case be called? You got the point, guys? So when will this test case be called? So let's run this quickly and then you see what I mean. So press F5. Now please look here, guys. So I'm calling this after local assignment. After local assignment, what did I get? It called. Now look here, guys. We expected it to call this, yes or no? Let's listen. After local assignment, yes. So what did we expect it to call? We expected it to call this. But remember the scope, right? So though we actually put this inside a method which we call what? Local, okay? So it knows for sure, see the list one, see, look at global. Let's start from global first, okay? So though you said global, look here, look here. So after global assignment, in the global scope, what do you have? You have this, right or no? Yes. So in this, okay, sorry, I think I confused you guys. Okay, this is fine. Okay, yeah, okay, fine. Do local is called, okay. So I'm gonna get yes. When I go to call this do local, okay, I'm gonna get this. Fine. Okay, first thing I call do local, this is fine. So I call this, no worries. So do local will print this test case. Okay, fine. Now I'm going to call what now? Non-local assignment. Fine. So which is going to call this? This is fine. Okay, and then I'm going to call what? Non do global. Please look here. Okay, and then I'll print it here. So the global is going to print this one, right? So what do I put here now? So this is what the global for span. Okay, so it's correct. Sorry, remember the order, please. Otherwise, I'm going to confuse you guys now. So this is fine. Okay. Now, next thing we want to do is let's look at this simple example, guys. So the second example says, if actually I want to use something now that makes more sense. Simply, I'm just calling some print statement. What exactly am I trying to explain? So look at something that makes more sense now. Okay. So this is a simple class object. So I have some whatever a variable which contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Now, when I say return this, okay, this is a method which I have created. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, fine, return hello world. So what do you think actually will happen when I actually run this code? What do you think will happen? Will it print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or will it print hello world? Okay, will it print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is going to print hello world? Can you guess? Now, okay, you say, okay, fine, sir, there is nothing printed here actually. So I need to call this. Fine. So I'll call, okay, sorry, it's not defined. No, I need to call my class. Okay, yes, okay, sorry, that's fine. So I need to instantiate it, right? Because obviously till here nothing will get printed. Okay, so create an instance of this class. So I've created the instance of the class, fine, and then I'll call it. Got it? Because instance is missing. So this is fine. Please listen. So what I want to know, please listen, guys. Will I print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or will I print hello world? So how will it know which is which, right? So if I'm going to call this now, in this case, this looks like my, you know for sure this is my what? Global variable. Okay, so this is my local variable. Sorry, instance variable. This is my global variable or the class variable. In this case, let me call it class variable, what it is now, and this is my instance variable. So how do I access them? I'm accessing now. Look here, guys. So let me comment this guy out first. I don't need this object. Okay, I don't need this object. So I'm creating only one object for my class, and then I'm calling that. Okay, both the class variable and the instance variable. So if I call the first one, obviously what will it print? So it should print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then this should print my hello world, and then this should print hello world. And then I added this also. How many instances can be created? Can I use only one? I used one and I called it twice. Yes or no? I created this object, okay, this instance only once, and I called it twice here. So can I actually call this again like this, say x1 after I created that object, and that's okay, dot what, the method name. Can I actually do this? Okay, so before that, I'm going to leave this guy out now, and then let's just see this. Okay, fine. So run this quickly. Now you see here, obviously nothing was printed. This was what I wanted most of you to take note of. So this is because I'm using a different IDE. Okay, this IDE. But if I use maybe uh maybe my idle, it might actually print it. Two things we can do: call it from the compiler itself or wrap it around print statements. So I'll say print here. I close this guy here. Now go back again and say, okay, fine, print this. print, fine. Now close it. Now finally, I'll say print here. Okay, so this I'm going to comment out and I'll run it from the console. Fine. So you see, obviously 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is there, and then the word is there. So what we can do now is we can create another word instance of this. So I'll say here now x1. I call it my class. Fine. CLASS. This works. Fine, done. Now I have to use it to access both the class variable and the what? Instance variable. So I'll say x1 dot something. X1 dot, what's the class variable name? It's called what? I. Fine. I got that. So I can also say x1. X1 dot what? Was that? F, right? So dot F. Fine. Now, oh, sorry. Okay, yes, please listen. It's telling you I only return the type, yes, which is my class object application. No worries. So since it's an instance, right, so call this, and I'm getting my hello world. Fine. Okay, so let's continue. And somehow we touch exceptions today. Okay, is the class fast-paced? Sorry about that. I believe many of you are able to follow. Okay, I just believe that. All right, in case if you have a doubt, fine, I would see to that later. Okay, some more examples. Okay, so let's say you want to use this to kind of return both the real part and the what real part and the imaginary part. So you have a function. You want to write a function that will return. Say if I have like 3.0 3x minus 4.1 multiplied by 4.5j. Okay, I need to return the real part, fine, and then the imaginary part. No worries. Now, so here I'm taking two arguments, real and the imaginary part. Fine. Return the real part, return the imaginary part. Create an object of that and then call them. Fine. Fine. X dot real and x dot imaginary. No worries. So it's going to give me this and then it's going to give me it. I'll put that on the screen. So fine. Yes. So now you might say, okay, but I did not even understand actually. Simply you said real part and you passed them into that as an argument. Obviously, right? We needed two arguments. So what happens here? Let's say we tried doing this without passing an argument into it. Okay, so because we are going to look at the next thing, which is called exceptions versus errors. We're going to look at the next concept. So it says here, missing two required positional arguments, real part and imaginary part. So it's telling you exactly that you tried calling something which he expected you to pass an argument or parameters, but you never did that. Fine. So this is not an exception actually. It is actually an error. So you might say, okay, what is the difference between exceptions and errors? We'll get to that. So fine, let's clear this now and then continue. Okay, so this is fine. And then here we close this. Okay, done. And continue with the next example. So this is what we are talking of, that instance and what class instance and what instance variables. Okay, so we want to use this now to access them. So look here, we created the cat is called feline, and then this variable which is shared by all the instances, and then we know that this is what now the instance variable. Fine. So we can actually use that now, and this was what we just did now. Okay, Persian cat and Bengal cat. Okay, I forgot that. Now, so this, you may say e dot kind obviously is going to give me feline. D dot kind also is going to give me feline because it's an instance that is shared by all the cat what family. Fine. Now, if I say d dot name, it's only unique to the what instance variable. Fine. So it's going to give me Persian here, and this is going to give me Bengal here. So can I say now first e dot kind? Obviously, you can call e also before d, and then finally I'll call d here. Fine. Okay, it doesn't matter. Fine. And the same thing also you can do here. Okay, so we look at a more tricky cat example. But for now, let's just comment this out and run this. Okay, so this is what we have. Now you see the funny part again, I'm not getting anything, right? So I'm gonna call it from here, or write them around this. I don't know. Okay, so e dot kind kind, enter. So I'm getting feline. I can say d dot kind also, no worries, I'm getting feline. Fine. So I can now call find now e dot name first before d dot name. Fine, Bengal is called. Now I can say d dot name. The other version is called. Fine. Okay, so why is the other one tricky actually? Why is the next example tricky? Let's see this example. This example says, I want to kind of, 1 minute, I comment this out. So look here. This is actually a list, right? So I want to populate this at runtime. So I've created an empty list. Now, this will be mistaken what as what class variable. Don't worry, when we run this, you'll understand now. So this is my instance, right? So here I'm going to add because it's a list, so we can append. No worries, right? Now, so this cart, initially there is nothing in the cart. Yes or no, it's an empty list. So I'm going to add CMEs, going to add patient. Now, can their behavior, you can also say, please listen, this added the name CMEs and then patient. No worries. Now, this is like their behavior, the trick. Can they roll over? Can they pretend as if they are dead? Fine. Now, since this trick is shared by all the words, okay, I like cats, dogs, in between I'm saying dogs, okay. So cat dog example is a famous example everywhere. Even in your machine learning also, you see cat dogs everywhere. Okay, all right. Okay, sorry guys. Remember, this looks like confusion. So I just try to print some emoji saying this is smiley face, it can roll over, this is angry face. Kind of is playing dead. So it looks like I did not close this. Well, how you know? Click out, you see every IDE will have a color telling you whether it's closed or not. So you see here, blue color barrel thing, then this also, right? So whereas this is just an ordinary text, fine. So, and I'll show you the correct way to use this, okay, instances. Please look here. So let's look at this one and then look at why this is actually funny. Because when I call d, say if I call d.tricks, okay, what exactly is it going to call? Okay, we don't know now. So I'm going to comment all these things out. Let me just run this. So if I run this now, you obviously will not see anything. So let me just add them in the console. This is added, fine. So I'm going to call this one. Call it from the console only. So till then, I'll clear this. No worries. Fine. Now watch here, guys. So if you see here, I wanted, let's say I wanted this card. Okay, let's say first one I want to say, okay, this card actually is maybe it's rolling over. Okay. Then okay, let me add it, let me call it with E. Let me call it again with this object. Okay, dot tricks, tricks. Then you understand. Now you see. Now you see. So what I actually wanted is, please look here. When I say add tricks, right? So you should only call rollover. Yes or no, guys? Fine. When I use the e.trick, it should call playdead. I mean, I should print playdead, not call playdead, right? So that is why I said now it has mistaken this now as what? A class variable, which is accessible from everywhere. Yes, guys. So in the context of global, although it's not what it is now, it says fine, whatever is there, these two belongs to that class. So I'm going to print them. So this is not what we wanted. We want to access only d.tricks. We want it to print only rollover. And e.tricks should print whatever playdead. Okay. Thank you, Maggie. Okay, fine. So till here is fine. I hope you're able to follow, guys. So now, how do we actually correct this? How do we correct this? Okay, so I'm going to comment this out now and just follow me and see what we did here now. Okay, so sorry, yes, that is closed. Now remove this guy here. Fine. Now cover this guy here, no worries. Then take this out now and then close it here. Fine. Okay, now what we wanted to do now, please look here now, guys. So what exactly did we do? Excuse me. See, initially we just said only this, right? This trick, and then defined another method. Said, okay, self.name. But here what we did was to add both of them together, removing it from what? Looking as if it is global, and adding it to that method, okay, that instance in which it belongs to. Okay, so this is the only update which you have to do. Okay, this creates an empty list now for each. I don't know why I keep using this. For each instance, okay? So this instance of what? Cat. Okay, now when we add the same thing now, we did not change anything. Okay, so this should now call rollover and this should now call playdead. Fine, so let's work on this now. F5. Yes, I now need to say d.tricks, so I'm going to call d.tricks. Now you see now rollover has appeared. Okay, but in the previous case it was both rollover and playdead appearing. So if I call e.tricks, tricks, now I'm going to get what? Playdead. Got it? Fine. So the priority which I was explaining previously, say I wanted to design an application for grade, calculating students' grade or something like that, right? Okay, so let's see that now. Let's see that. So what I wanted to do was, I want to kind of, let me comment this out. So I want to kind of maybe compute students' grade. Okay, so maybe I will say, I use this as home based, but don't get confused, guys. I said student grade. Why am I now telling home based now? I don't know why I like confusing you guys, but it's fine. Please listen. Let's change it to student grade and build this, okay? So that you will be able to relate whatever we have explained to this, okay? Fine, let's go there. So in this case now, what we do is change this quickly to student grade. Let's say std grad grad. Fine. So the purpose is to what do they call it here? We call this something student's grade. Okay, student's grade calculator. You say it's just grading system. Fine. Now the class, what did I call this? Okay, the semester is 7th sem. Fine. Sem is 7th. So we call it 7th sem. And by the way, like you can use double quote also. It's all our strings only. 7th sem. Fine. Now, instead of home base now, okay, remember we called this what? std grad. Create object for that std grade. This is done. Now, purpose and then sem. Okay, call it sem. So please listen. Okay, so this I say try reassigning region and see what happens. So try reassigning sem and see what happens. Anania, keep quiet. No attendance. Try reassigning sem and see what happens. Okay, so for now let me comment these guys out. Okay, and then you see here. So I hope you're able to follow, guys. Till here you're able to follow, right? So it's going to call it grading system for 7th sem, no problem. Fine. Now you see here grading system 7th sem. Okay, so you can actually add something here for 7th sem, no worries. Okay, semester is for 7th sem, nothing like that, or you just add comma also in between. Okay, fine. Now I run this again, no worries, for 7th sem. Fine. So now what I said is try reassigning this guy. Look here, try reassigning what? Sem and see what happens. Okay, so this was what we tried doing. So it's okay. H2 is going to be what now? std grad. Fine, std grad. Great. So if that is the case, let's say now, okay, we needed purpose and we needed what? Sem. So what I needed was only to change the sem now to 8 sem. That's it. So I'll change it back to 8 sem. Sem now it has to be for 8 semester. So I'll say for 8 semester. For 8 semester. So I can actually now, I asked you, right? Should I, when I want to do this now, should I actually, let's try doing this, okay? Let's call it with this. So for now, I'm going to comment that out and then I'll print with this. Okay, h1 purpose and that. Let's see what happens. Now you see, though we have reassigned this, guys, though we reassigned it to 8sem, yes or no? But when I call with the object of the previous one, right, the previous assignment, the instance, object of the previous instance is going to print that value. Okay, in case if it's confusing, look here. So you have only this, right? Oh, okay. I need to, yes, yeah, this is fine. This is fine. H1 is there, okay? And then this is H2. So when I'm calling with this, yes or no? So that's why I'm getting this. That's why I said, okay, try, should we call with H1 or should we call with H2? Okay. So now H2, now we'll do another thing, another example. So now we call it the object of the newest instance. So this is fine. Okay, sorry, has no attribute region, obviously. Okay, I called it region instead of me to. Yes, yes, thank you. Yes, you have to write H to Maggie. Exactly. Okay, so F5. See here. So grading system for each semester. That's it. Okay. So that was why I asked that question. Should we have that or should we have this? Now, the funny part is, can we try this? H1 dot peppers. Yes, because even if you say H1 dot peppers also, it's going to call. See, we did not reassign it, right? So we did not reassign it here. So it's still going to be grading system. So you can actually do this. See, grading system for sub. So you can actually mix objects. You got the point? You can actually list objects of the class. Fine. All right. So there is something I wanted to do. Okay. So if for most of you who has actually programmed in other languages, like I started my I studied my BSc in only Pascal, Fortran, and Cobo, and Pascal, Fortran, and QBasic. That was what I learned. So in that, there is something actually in C we call structures in C. Okay, so that is what you call it in C, but in Pascal it's called a record. So record is actually what it is, used to hold data of various types, because we know that arrays, now remember Python now removed the dealt away with arrays, right, by introducing lists, which you can use to store multiple what items, okay, of similar, of different types also. But previously, if you are working on arrays will only store one type. So if you want to store multiple types, like name, department, and salary, you have to use structure. struct, struct, okay, in C. And then you have to use what? Record in Pascal. So let's try create an empty employee record now. Okay. Now remember here, guys, why we use the pass method. We want to populate something which we don't know for now. So, and if you don't put this pass, it's going to throw an error. So this is actually a Nigerian musician. His name is Flavor. Okay. So Flavor is an empty whatever. So, and this is one of the way to do guys. His name is Obi Kubana. So you can put anything. So why will I use only Nigeria? Let me use somebody here now. I'm Maggie. So if I'm going to use Maggie is the object. Okay, so not Maggie Flavor. Okay, not that Maggie. So I'll say Maggie.name. I'm a Maggie. Okay, dot name. I will say it is Ama Maggie. AMARMAGI. Now your department. Dot depth is obviously CSC 7th sem, fine, 5th sem CSC, fine. And then you might want to expect starting salary should be obviously 10 lakhs per annum starting for you. Okay, so you are getting 1 lakh and I want you to get 10 lakhs per annum. Okay, now so this is what actually happens, okay, with this. Then I can actually populate this, right? So by when I create an object of this, and then I can actually call them. Okay, so this is what I wanted to point out, right? You can kind of use this as a way, okay, to create objects. Okay, fine. Now what do I want to explain next? That in most cases there's something we call iterators. And what I said iterators, and I wanted to explain those two concepts quickly. One is iterator, another one is generators. Yes. Okay, so please listen, guys. Don't get confused now. Generators look similar to something. Let's go back to an example of a generator, then we go and take some notes on generators. Now, if you see here, I said on iterators, okay? Don't worry, let's look at generators. Last one. So these generators, okay, they look like what? They look like what? Tuples, right? Fine. And look here, and in that tuple, okay, we are going to perform some operation. Don't worry, okay? And then we are using this comprehension, okay? Now we will come to this. What are iterators and what are generators? Fine. So let's take study some little concepts, little notes on that, and then we try to introduce the concepts of exception handling, and we wind up. All right. So far, so good. Let's take a note on what? Iterators. What are iterators? Okay, so that means it is used to iterate. Okay, or loop through. Yes? Okay, fine. So, okay. So if you program, you know that iterators are very useful in Python. For what? Use for what? Define, okay, let me put this way. Let me put this way. You have a list. Let's get some stuff here. List, you have a list which contains something, right? So what do you do in this list? You can loop through it. You loop through this list, loop through, using what? Using for loop. Yes or no? Yes. Using for loop. Yes? Fine. So the only thing is this, iterators are also like for loops, okay? But they are used as containers, container objects, or can I call it container objects? Okay, for what? For looping through list items by calling what? By calling the iter method. I don't know how to pronounce it, guys. By calling the list iter method, iter. Okay, it's called iter. I don't know, iter method. Okay, now that means that whenever this function, whenever this I mean that means that this iterator will return what? Will return a method that it's in between. It's actually calling. Listen, please. This iter subsequently we will show you an example, uses this next method. So whenever I print some stuff, it's like, okay, I've printed the first one using iterator, call the next one, call the last one, until at the end of the day it's going to throw an error, which we're going to see now. Okay, we demo that and you understand this better. So it's going to use what now? Next method. And see, actually one thing you need to understand here is next method actually has something underscore actually, showing that this is what a special type of method. Remember, we've seen that INIT right in it, which is special type, and they are mostly private. Okay, so whenever you see things like this, okay, remember that they are very, very special. We should not override them. Okay, fine. And at the end of the day, let's say it has reached here. There is no other element here, right? In C, we say you get a null character. Okay, null. But what it will do is, at the end of it, it's going to throw error. Throw error. At the end, if you still want to loop through it, throw error known as what? Stop iteration error. Okay, stop iteration. Now, in this case, let me not use error. I'll call it exception. Okay, because you see index out of bound exception, similar to that. Stop iteration is similar to index out of bound. Index out of bound exception. That means what? You know how this happens, right? Exception. If they say you have this, what is the length of this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you want to say for I equal to whatever, less than whatever. Maybe I don't want to use this. Okay, I want to access a list of 12, obviously out of range. Okay, that's it. Now we will show an example, guys. We will show an example and then you understand. So for that, let's take a simple example with this iterator. Okay. So remember we said it calls .next, right, by default. So let's look at this. Okay. So I will create something here. I prefer to use okay, let's see if it is here. Otherwise we have to do that now. Okay, so please listen, guys. Let's run this first one and then we use iterator for looping through this sequence. Is there? Okay, so this is a list, yes or no, guys? I print it. This is a tuple, yes or no, guys? Sorry, this is a tuple, yes or no? I print it. This is a dictionary, yes or no? Print it. So how do you loop through lists? The same way you loop through tuples, the same way you loop through dictionary. Now, I have this, is a string. These are all what? Famous data types in Python. So I'm going to loop through this, print them one character at a time. No worries. I have a file, which I called my file.txt. And remember, I'm using this end because I want to print them on one line. This will print on new line. I want to print everything on one line, okay? And then I will just run this, yes? So this is without what? Iterators. So can we run this now? You see what I mean. So look here, guys. So this is 1, 2, 3. I'm printing it on new line, right? 1, 2, 3. Done. Now this is what? Second one on tuple. 1, 2, 3. So again, 1, 2, 3. Fine. Third one, I'm using a dictionary, so I'm only interested in the keys, not in the in the value. So if you want to access the value, you say you access it through the key. Remember, guys, menu type. Please check menu type. I didn't understand. I've already. Okay, okay, sorry, I can't get that. So this is what we have. Okay, so you see here. Yes, I need the values. I'm going to access them through the key. No worries. So this is fine. So I'm getting 1, 2. Okay, this is what we have here. Okay, 1, 2. Fine. Now I needed this one. Okay, I needed to print what? Split this, right? It's a string now. I want to print them. I'll print them individually. 1, 2, 3. So now look here. Now if you see here now, 1, 2, 3 is the previous one, please. Previous one. In this is only one, right? Please listen. It's only string, right? So I'm going to print all the characters. Though I said split it, it's like I don't know what you're talking about actually. The funny part is which now? Please listen. How many print statements did we call? Please listen. 1, 2, let's not get confused. 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5. So better use new line to separate them. What am I telling you? Just print. You can just print something to avoid confusion. Remember I told you this before, right? That in between, if your program you're getting confused, try to use print statement to debug that, right? So you say end of list. Okay, whatever example. Okay, now then I'm going to copy paste. Fine. So I'll copy this. Now copy that, paste here, then end of tuple. Clearly. Fine. Then this is end of the dictionary. Dictionary, dict, and then this is the end of car. So end of car. Now we should, sorry, the problem is we need to see what is in the text file, please guys. Okay, so let's open this now. This text file must be in the location, otherwise you have to specify the fully qualified / maybe something like that. So let's go down and then we should see my file. It is in this. Is called my file.txt. So sorry, inside my file I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 7, 8. Okay, so that is inside there. So that's why that 1, 2, 3 is also appearing again. So fine, let's go back here now and see this. Okay, so run this once more. Yes. Okay, expected, unexpected indentation. Oh yes, this one. This look here. This is what you should be conscious of. Okay, because Python obviously will make sure they are fine. This is done. Okay, so now you see the funny part is at each case. Okay, I get the point now. At each case, since it's saying here end of this, right? So this is actually not a good thing to do. So I'm going to comment this guy out, because see each one, right, after it prints one, it says end of that, but that's not what I wanted, right guys? So yeah, we got the point. So what I wanted to point out is that inside my card there's also 1, 2, 3 that is there. So I should expect 4 of them, or you call them individually. Very simple. Clear this, call what? Element, call element in this or pass this and just print them. This is fine, and at the end of the day you're gonna get this, no worries. So this is fine. Print for character, also print for key, print for element in this, and then so I should actually change this to elm, and then I print elm to avoid confusion. Fine. So what I can do here is save this now and just print this ELEMENT. Fine. So this we print obviously the last index, right? In that case. So name, email, unique for each instance. Okay. So run this quickly. This is fine. This is fine, guys. Listen. So this is done. Okay. And here print, I did not comment this guy out also, but fine. So at the end of the day, this is what we have in my file, but till here we did not use the concept of iteration. Okay, or iterator simply is similar to my iteration, but inside internally it calls what? The next what method. That's all I want you to get. Now go back here now and see it. So how do we actually prototype this? Let's take a very simple example to avoid confusion. Okay, so the 10th one says, look here guys, this is too lengthy, man. I don't want this example. So let's create a simple example, guys. Please listen. So I'm going to use forget whatever is here. Okay, so let's take a very simple example. Now I will just call maybe say a string contains, please listen, ABC. Pay attention guys, ABC. Okay, now this string contains ABC, so it is a string, right? So let me change it to iter. Remember I said by default is implementing iter, right? Fine. So let me call this now, change this string to what? iterator. To change it to an iterator, so I will just call this iter there. Okay, you see, it's a method inbuilt. On what? St. Fine. Now, once this happens, I can actually check what type it is, right? So let's see if it is an remember, you can turn it into a set by calling the set method also. Now I turned it into an iterator. Now, if you check here, you see here, it is a string iterator. Fine, sorry. Okay, so it's a string iterator and we can see it here. Yes or no? So this is the string iterator. Now let's see the next iterator when we call this next method on it, right? So remember, it is the next method. So once I call the next method, next, so fine, on this, yes or no? On what? The iterator. Yes. So what will it print? Obviously it should print the first one, a. Okay, I'm going to call this again. Let's see whether we are going to get stop iteration error. That is where we want to get to now. So I'm going to call it again, B. Is it similar to for loop? Yes. I'm looping through this, guys. Yes, looping through them. Now, again, I'm going to call next one, C. Now, it has reached the end of the loop. So it's going to call now what? What is it going to call? It's going to print null character, yes or no? Or it's going to throw some garbage value, but it will not print that. It's going to throw an exception, which is stop iteration exception. Now you see that. So it says now stop iteration exception. You see that? Not specified for this. Okay, so you close this and then come back. This is what it's yielded. Okay, fine. So on this note, I think we will look into generators. Okay, so later. Okay, so I think I will explain the concept of generator. Okay, and then we should be winding up. So what are generators now? So let's go back there. I believe iterators are all fine. Simply, just like your method, next method only. Okay, it calls that, sorry, just like your for loop only loops through that and implements this next method. Okay, fine. First thing, we have to turn it into an iterator object. So subsequently, which uses all this, fine. So we saw how we took a list and a string and converted it into an iterator, and then we call the next method and loop through it until we get what? The stop iteration exception. Fine. So what are generators now? What are generators? Okay. Now, so you can see these are, how do I put it now? So okay, so we actually use them most times when we want to manage memory. Please listen. They are similar to my tuples, but generators are more memory optimized. So they are less data hungry or less space storage hungry. So example, what I mean by this can be used to optimize code. Generators are used to optimize codes. Or okay, let's say example, just similar to my what? Similar to tuples. Okay, but more efficient. Okay, so you might, I don't know, I'm just giving you the programmatic definition. So okay, fine. Now, so there will be situations, okay, where the generator is used right away after maybe you are working on a function. Okay, so one thing we know, it is more versatile and more what? Impactful. So it is versatile and impactful and maybe like versatile and flexible to use than what? Than tuples. Fine. So how do we create that actually? And that means that we can actually use what we can do. It implements what? Or we can implement what? List comprehension inside that. We can also use list comprehension. You know, right? List comprehension is a short form or short form way. Why am I saying short form? It's a shortcut method of looping through a list, yes or no? List comprehension. And this comprehension makes your code, makes you look like a code gladiator. Fine? Cool. All right. I don't think this is a man. Somebody has, I don't know, all dark. It says done and okay, bye. All right, guys. So let's print some stuff. Okay, let's say we want to return the sum of numbers. Okay. I believe that example is here, and then we will take an attendance and you guys will go. Fine. So I don't want to do this for reversing a string. So this is fine actually. Please listen. I tried to use the iterator, okay, in a class. Okay, I did that in the simple one, right, from here. So look at a bigger example. Okay, the class is called reverse, and this one is init method, right? Check the length of the character in that string, fine, and return it. Call the iter method and call the next method. Yes or no? Fine. if the index is actually equal to 0, okay, because listen, we are going from -1, right? So once we reach that at the end of it now, okay, once we have moved through that, we are going to call this what? Stop iteration. Raise this stop iteration exception. Okay, so we have not done exception handling, but fine, we know that we are going to get this. So let me reverse Hemant. Okay, and I'm going to move through this. Okay, so Hemant is a tuple now converted into an iterator. Fine. I know, Ama, I know it's not you. I know somebody had that. Fine. So that is fine, and then we print this. Okay, so this is going to print it in reverse order. Okay, and this is kind of example in a class. Okay, end of line quoted string. Yes, guys, please listen. That's why most times I try to cover most of the strings. Fine. Okay, so this is the string, the last one. Please listen, the generator will stop. Okay, so this is it. Remember what I'm trying to explain, guys. In the class, using it in a class, I just ran it without a class. Yes or no? Sorry. So using it in a class, remember the init method, remember the item, and then the next method. Okay, and then in between, just try to kind of reverse the string. Okay, when you call this. Okay, once we reach here, we raise this exception. So let's see whether this happens. F5. Okay, done. And you see, yes, yes. So now this is it, Hemant. Okay, so because we did not go beyond that, so we want to stop here, right, and raise this exception. So you might actually now do one thing now and say, okay, this is how we implement this. Okay, but in case you did not, if you didn't follow, I believe you're able to follow the basic example which I gave. Fine. So now we have seen this. Let's look at generators. So generators, Nigerians will understand better. Generators are used to generate electricity. Okay, so this is more impactful and less versatile than uh less versatile. Sorry, please, I don't know. Okay, so generator definitions tend to be more memory whatever friendly and they run whatever you use when you use this comprehension. Okay, so please listen. For instance, so I need to find the sum of squares, right? So I'm using this comprehension in this case. Yes or no? Before sum, moving through this, right? Whatever is inside this range of what? That means from 0 to what? 11. Yes or no? Fine. 0 to 11, multiply them by itself. Fine. And at the end of the day, call some method on it. And then print this. No worries. So before I print the second and third one, let's see what the first one returns. So for that, I'm going to get an error. I have to take out this screen thing now. Okay. So this is fine. So what did this return? F5. So it's going to return 506. In case if you're confused, why don't you reduce this? Okay. What are the sum of squares between 1 to 3, right? So that means 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9. So, okay, if I wanted to, there, 3 squared is 9. So if I say 9 plus 4 is 13 and then 14. Okay. So let's run this. F5. Sorry. Oh yes, I used 5 3 there. That's correct. I wanted to do 4, so I wanted to do 4 so that I'll see 13. Okay, so sorry, that's not that. F5. Yes, 14. This was what I wanted to explain. Okay, so this is fine. So you got the point. So you know definitely 4 was not included. You got the point. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is what? 2. Okay, sure, Jeshri, I will share notes in WhatsApp. Don't worry. Okay. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 2. Sorry, what am I saying? 2 squared is 4 and 3 squared is 9. So 9 plus 1, 10 plus that 14. So this is fine. So this is first example. Okay. But this did not implement what now? What do we want to do? What generator? So generator now, this is my list comprehension, no worries, and it's similar to my tuple only. So if I want to use this now, okay, say I want to perform an operation on this. Okay, now look here. So I have this, right? These are what lists. So which is my some x vector and some y vector. Okay. So what I want to do, see here, this comprehension in this case is the first case, no worries. Form of squares using this comprehension. Now the second case, I wanted to perform this now, so I will call the zip method. Now many of you you will come across this actually when we start working on maybe data science projects. So what does zip method do? It actually performs the dot product of whatever is here. So you know the difference between dot product and cross product? Fine. A dot B is equal to what? So the mathematics behind that. Take this, multiply with this, take this, multiply with that, take this, multiply with that. And then at the end of the day, we add the sum. Got it? So that's why we use this actually. Okay, so the zip method calls this. And look here. Did you see how this comprehension is? But look at how this guy is. In zip, so we say xv, comma, yv. It makes sense, right? But if you don't know that these are generators, you might be thinking, okay, what are they doing, right? loop through this, fine, and then just call that, fine. So let's run this now, and then you see. So you can actually reduce the values, okay, 354. In case if it is too difficult, you can say this 1 into 4, 1 into 8, okay, maybe 1 into 10. So let's add them up, okay. Let's add them up, and we are getting 22. You got the point, guys? So 8 plus 8. So because you want to know whether it is cross product or dot product. So we are performing dot product. So this is what we have done. 1 into 4, 4, 1 into 8, 8, 1 into 10, 10. So we add them 18, 22. Done? That's what we have here. Fine. Now the last one is with a string. Okay. So now I can actually see here string converted to this, and then I use generators. Fine, because I'm going to say, okay, fine, I want to reverse this. So again, I want to reverse welcome. Okay, the way I reverse payment. Fine. So I have actually implemented this on C. Okay, and I converted it into a list, guys. Don't worry, don't forget. I converted it into a list. Okay, and then from that list again, I now implemented use generators. Okay, so that's why you are getting this. Fine. Now you see here we have implemented generators on a single. I mean, try to compare. We compared it with what this comprehension, and then we have implemented it on what list, okay, and also implemented on a string. Fine. So on this note, I want to stop, okay, guys, and please remember this is going to serve as 2 days note. I know it's a mouthful, but guys, let's introduce something here. For most of you that are interested in attendance, they are just joining now. So let's introduce one concept and we wind up. Okay. So what is that concept? The concept is error. I will start it so that I will not find we treated some stuff. So what are errors? How are errors different from exception? Errors versus exception. So guys, just say something like this. Errors versus exception. Are they the same or are they different? So this I call day 17 of 50. Okay, so guys, quickly tell me, are they the same or are they different? So let's do something here. Let's go to the console. Okay, I'm going to clear this. I just say hello. Now, is this an exception or is this an error? Is this an exception or is this an error? Guys, is this an exception or is this an error? Okay, end of line while scanning literal string. So this is an error, yes or no? So let me give an exception now. Let me say 1 divided by 0. Now this comes and say division, 0 division error. But now division by 0 error. Now you might say, sir, exceptions are known as errors. Now listen, they are used interchangeably. People say exceptions are errors, they say errors are exceptions. But what we want to define here is this. Please listen. Most syntax errors are not exceptions. Exceptions are things that we know that might go wrong when we start running a program. So if I'm running a program and I know that in between there is something that will go wrong, so I need to kind of what do handle that error. Yes, Shreyas, yes. So we can actually call exceptions errors only, no worries. But the only why I want to differentiate it from errors is that errors is something that I can correct by looking at the syntax. But exception is something I need to handle. Because this one, I know there is no syntax error here. There is actually an exception here, which if I handle it, it will go. Whereas in this case, I can actually go back and just use print statement and that will come. Okay, I can just say print. Okay, I'll just say hello here. Okay, or I'll just put it in string, hello. Okay, and then that will come. Okay, so this is what I wanted to confirm. But no matter how I do this, even if I wrap it around print statement, it's going to be there until I handle this exception. So we will continue.